beautiful people? Welcome back to my channel. This is Brownsugar Commentary, and I am your girl, Kayla. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe for more videos. Okay, let's get right into it. So today I wanted to talk about the new Netflix original series called Grand Army. I mentioned Grand Army briefly in my very first video called The Erasure of Black Girls on Netflix. If you haven't checked that out, do it right now, okay? Or maybe after this video, doesn't matter. But in that video, I was briefly talking about Grand Army because I saw the trailer that day, and I said I found it really interesting at the fact that Netflix acts like black girls don't exist when it comes to their programming, okay? Like anytime, they make their little rom-com movies or even their sci-fi movies or even just simple slice of life comedy or even dramedy type shows, black girls are nowhere to be found. Visibly black girls, they're not there. But when they want to do the heavier stuff, they want to do the dramas or the things that are dealing with racism or social injustice or poverty, black girls is right front and center. And so when I saw the trailer for this show and I saw it as a show that's going to be diving into race, I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. You know we exist. It's just we can't have no fun. Like, what's up with that? And I also heard about the writers being mistreated on this show, which is also something you got to side eye, because during the past summer when everyone was all Black Lives Matter and we're supporting black art and black creatives and whatever, Netflix was one of those people that made it a point to say we stand in solidarity with the black community. But if, people on your shows, your producers, your directors, whatever, are treating writers of color badly, then I have to look at you like, what's really going on here? But that still didn't stop me from wanting to watch the show, because I still wanted to give a good analysis of the show and how I really felt before prejudging it with the trailer, because trailers can't really tell you everything. And honestly speaking, the show is good. Before I even really dive into what happens and all that, the show is a great show. I think it's one of the best shows that they've had in a while, because it's been a drought in Netflix world, especially when it comes to their teen content. Because 13 Reasons Why was a train wreck, let's be honest. It was not a good show. I mean, it was decent first season, but beyond that, it was basically trauma porn for 4 seasons that went on way too long. But it's definitely one of their better shows. But yeah, so Grand Army, if you don't know, it's gonna have spoilers. Also, I'm gonna be spoiling stuff, so if you haven't watched, maybe pause, watch it, come back. But it's talking about this high school that's in Grand Army Plaza in New York City. The school is named after that, and it follows the lives of several of their students. And basically the events that unfold during this season comes after a terrorist attack, some type of bombing that occurs not too far from the school, which causes the school to lock down. And what majority of the stuff that takes place during this lockdown sets the tone and the plot points for the season. Okay, all right. If you see me looking down a bunch of times, it's because I'm looking at my iPad, because I have iPad, because I have a bunch of notes, so I'm not sitting here rambling all day long. So yeah, so first and foremost, we have Joey. Joey is, she's interesting. But no, she's a very much, she gives me new wave feminism. She calls things as she sees it. She's bold. She does whatever she wants. She's pretty popular. She hangs around these 3 guys, and one of their names is Tim. I don't care what the other 2 characters, and you'll know why. I mean, if you watch the season, you know. If you know, you know. I never saw it for them anyway, but definitely didn't see it for them afterwards. But she hangs out with them and her little close girlfriend, who is Tim's sister. Also don't know her name because, once again, she's trash, and you'll know why as we talk. Yeah, so she's basically, she was living her life like it's golden, in the first couple of episodes. And she, something to talk about her is that, you see, the reason why I didn't really care for her, honestly, is because she gives me the impression that while the type of white person that their heart is in the right place, but they don't know how to execute things properly. And when I say that, I feel like if the school were to have some type of Black Lives Matter rally or talking about something, she'd be the one to interject like she's a black person. You know what I mean? She would be the one to try to hijack the movement and be the face of it, even though it got nothing to do with her. An example of this is when, and this is with the this scene is what's shown in the trailer, where they are the national anthem is being played and the black female basketball players are kneeling, much like people do in real life. And Joey randomly decides to do it too and encourages her friend to do it too. And you can see like why. And it's like, I get your heart is in the right place, but no. You didn't even talk to them about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily a problem, but it's like you can tell like she's just doing stuff without really knowing the reason why. And she just has that I want to hijack a whole movement type vibe about her. But she's okay, I guess. But then what I want to talk about with Joey and her storyline is two things. First, the dress code incident. So on the first episode, like I said, there's a lockdown. And you know, if you've been to any school ever, when you have these type of lockdowns, you usually have a designated area that you're supposed to meet your class at and, you know, do what you have to do. And so during this lockdown, she's in gym class. So she's in gym class and everybody has to go out to the hallway in the stairwell. And when she's there, one of her teachers sees her wearing these little gym shorts and is like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you wearing those gym shorts? Kind of like slut shaming her in a way and saying she's doing it for attention when clearly it's not the case. She was literally in gym class. That's what you wear in gym class. Like, what? That teacher's trash. Just who gave her teaching credentials? Who hired her? Because she don't even look like she like kids for real. Like, what is that about? But Joey obviously is offended by this and took it quite personal. So what Joey ends up doing is the very next day she comes to school with no bra on and like a little sheer tank top, and she encourages the other female students to do the same. And of course, the teacher sees her and confronts her about it and is like, what are you doing? Why are you wearing that? And basically calls her a prostitute and kicks her out the class. And then Joey proceeds to go to the principal and explain the situation and tell her, like, you know, the dress code is very sexist, and it's not fair to not fair to girls about the dress code. And, you know, the principal hears her side, he understands, and she even gets the principal to tell the teacher to give her an apology. And while that's like great and that's like a win on her end, it's still not lost on me that had that been a black student that this happened to, that situation would have not went that same way, especially knowing what happens later on in the season to other students, especially the black students. We know good and well if like it was Dom or any one of the other girls that Dom hangs around, that would have not been the case. She definitely would have got some type of disciplinary action. But it also makes me think back to when I was in high school and how certain teachers made it their personal mission to dress code students, especially students of color. I remember particularly back in high school, I was wearing these ripped jeans. And, you know, ripped jeans, their jeans is all, you know, there's rips all over. But then this particular pair of jeans had a rip on my thigh. Okay, so the rip was showing a bit of the thigh meat. And I remember, now, mind you, I went to a very big high school in the suburbs, in the South, okay? And so many times, the hallways were super crowded, but there was always teachers and administrators standing, like, in the middle of the hallways to make sure people were going to class and not horsing around and whatever. But certain teachers would dead stand there to scope out girls to make sure that they were dressed appropriately. And one time a teacher pulled me out of the crowd and gave me duct tape to cover up my little thigh meat. And I was just like, what? Now, I was one of the people who didn't really get dress coded that often because I just didn't want those problems. But I know plenty of girls, especially black and brown girls, who got dress coded quite a bit, and the punishment was like as severe as getting detention or Saturday school if you got enough dress codes, which is super ridiculous. But it also kind of just goes back to the patriarchal and misogynistic world we live in. Women's bodies are always policed and being talked about and discussed, and women are not really given the freedom to wear what we want without being heavily scrutinized, which is disgusting. And it all starts in school. Like I said, girls are given way more restrictions on what they're supposed to wear to school compared to boys. Like, boys is like, just don't show up to school naked, or have t-shirts that have inappropriate like signage on it. But girls, it's like no spaghetti straps, no shorts, no tight clothing, no yoga pants. Some schools did, or the yoga pants got to cover your butt. And it's all this to talk about, oh, we can't distract the boys. And it's like, what does a girl got to do with distract? That's the boy's problem. And it just goes back to the whole victim shaming culture that we live in. So I really commend the show for bringing up this storyline through Joey's situation. Like I said, she had a win in this situation, but had it been a character that was black or brown, that would have not been the case. I don't think things would have went as smoothly. Okay, now to get into Joey's other main storyline, which is her sexual assault. So like I said, she hangs out with these three guys. One of them named Tim. They have a little something going on, but they're kind of like, will they or won't they, because they're friends. And you know, Joey's fearful that it might ruin the friendship dynamic if it doesn't work out, because like I said, she's best friends with his sister as well as his other friends. And so one day they all go to the movies and everything's all good. I think they end up smoking marijuana or something, and so they're all like a little bit under the influence, and they decide to go to a party. They get into a cab, and she's sitting on one of their laps. Once again, I don't know their name, I don't want to know their name, I don't care, but they're sitting on their laps. I mean, that's the type of friendship that they have. She's like a flirtatious type of girl. Like I said, she's carefree. She don't really, you know, they've known each other since they were younger. You know, she feels comfortable around them, whatever. They're going to this thing, and so she ends up kissing both of them, and she's being playful. You know, they're having a good time, whatever. But then things go from one thing to the next, and the two of them assault her in the cab while Tim sit there quiet like a church mouse, quiet like an elf on the shelf, gutter trash, okay? And you can visibly see that she's uncomfortable and she wants them to get off, but you know, stop doing what they're doing, but they're not paying her any mind, and they're just doing whatever the hell they want to do. And it's really like, that was so uncomfortable and sad to watch, because it's something that happens all the time, right? And assault is never okay, okay? Don't be doing nothing with nobody if you do not get their verbal consent. As stupid or not stupid, but as maybe embarrassing, or it might kill the vibe, it does not matter. You do not go there sexually with someone if they did not give their consent. And given Joey's body language, she was not here for this at all. And so what ends up happening is that she obviously is traumatized, as one would. She takes action and goes to the police and gets rape kit done and all that stuff. But unfortunately, the police ends up dropping the case and doesn't really take any judiciary action for it. And she's kind of just left to deal with what happened. And of course, the boys end up denying it, and they're kind of saying it's her fault and she was with it and all of that. And Tim, once again, quiet like a church mouse, not saying nothing. Later on in the season, she texts them to meet up with them, to confront them on the issue, and they're still denying it. And then Tim's sister out here corroborating their story like she was there. And I was like, girl, waste. That's why I said I don't care about her name. I don't want to know her name. Trash. I said, this girl once took a condom out of your hoo-ha. Like, what is this about? And now it's time for you to be there for her, and now you want to act like this? It's just disgusting. The whole storyline really just upset me for her. And it's just sad to see her character go from this free spirit, bold person to kind of being quiet and reserved. And she ends up having to change schools and go to an all-girls school. And she's just like, you know, almost like a former shell of herself, as one would be if something like that happened to them. I mean, as the season goes on, she kind of, you know, I'm pretty sure she's going to therapy, and she's trying to work through the trauma. And you see her, you know, kind of getting back to herself towards the end. Her and Dom become cool, which I love to see it. And you see Tim texting her, and she better not, no. It's too little too late, in the words of JoJo, Timmy boy, okay? Because when it was time for you to speak, you didn't speak. So she better not text him back next season. But yeah, Joey, I like Joey. Like I said in the beginning, I was like a little iffy about her, but as time gone on, I really was able to sympathize for her, and really, I really like her. So I hope that she gets the healing and she can get back to somewhat normalcy in the next season. Okay, so next we have Dominique, aka Dom, aka my girl. Okay, I love Dom. Dom is Haitian American. Okay, she is driven, smart, ambitious, all the good things. And I have to note how amazing it is that that Dominique is Haitian, because I don't remember ever seeing a show where a character is Haitian and speaking frequent Creole. I think that's pretty dope. And that's, like I said, I'm all for representation over here on this side. So I'm always happy to see things like that. But Dominique is the perfect example of how Black girls had to grow up way too fast and more than we would like to. Because and there's a stark contrast between Dominique's world and what she's going through compared to, let's say, someone like Joey or the other non-Black girls in the show. While, of course, Joey goes through that horrible thing, before then, she was living a pretty carefree, fun life, where Dominique has a much different situation. She lives with her mother and her sister. I don't hear them really speak about her dad or anything like that. I don't think he's around. So she lives with her mother and her sister has a couple of kids, and they all kind of live in this one apartment. And Dominique doesn't really get much space, like even when she's on the phone, or even she's constantly listening to this podcast, and she's always having to like go in the bathroom to get some form of privacy. And she doesn't really get to go out and have fun like a normal teenager would. And then her sister gets injured and has to stop working. And so this puts the family in financial straits because the sister and the mother are the two breadwinners of the house. And so Dominique assumes the position of trying to get money to help her mother out and pay the bills. And she goes to, braiding hair and making hair products. And she's sitting there, at the cost of her education and really her sleep at sometimes. She's having to do all these things. And it's so, like I said, that's a reality that many Black kids have. But you see that she is resilient and she's smart. And while that's that just shows like how hard Black kids have to work, and they don't get to be the luxury of just being kids sometimes. And then Dominique has her mother tries to turn my good sis into a child bride, which I don't understand what this is about. But basically, like I said, because the film's in financial issues, her mother ends up trying to make some deal with I guess it's a church sister or something. And she says that she wanted Dominique to marry this little boy so he can get his papers, and for $10,000. And I'm just like, that's what your daughter is worth to you? What is this about? What's really going on here? And Dominique ends up agreeing to do this. Which shows you just how much she cares about her family and how much of a sacrifice she's willing to make for her family. That says a lot about her character and who she is. But luckily, the mother comes to her senses towards the end and says, "No, we ain't gonna do the child bride stuff. We're gonna make some things shake," which I was super happy about because I was really like not here for that. I was like, "What is this about?" Also, Dominique wants to be a therapist, and I think that's super dope. We don't really see Black people in the mental health field, so just that for that to happen, I think is amazing. And she ends up getting an internship working in a mental health facility for Black women. Once again, we love to see it over here. I also want to bring up that one scene where she goes uptown to go do some girls' hair, like these Black girls' hair. And, that's when she gets the call, she gets the internship, and everyone's just so collectively happy for her. And I'm like, ain't that just like Black girls? Like, when one of us win, we all win. Like, that was just a Black girl magic moment. And I was here for it 1000%. Because even though they don't know Dom and Dom doesn't know them, they were still able to like share in her excitement and her joy. And they were encouraging her and making her feel good. And I think that's great. Also, her friend group is amazing as well. I really want to learn more about them and their individual stories. They're a great friend group, especially when Dominique was going through it, and all the pressure that she was going through. They were really a great support system for her. So I think shout out to her. And also Dom got a man. Okay, Dom has a man, and his name is John, and we see their relationship unfold this season. I think it's super cute because they're both kind of awkward, kind of shy, but they end up, going out. And John's a great dude. He's definitely nothing like boys I went to high school with, okay? He's a student athlete. He's smart. He's woke, okay? He's in charge of the Black Student Union. He's fighting the good fight, and I love to see it. And of course, their relationship kind of goes through these ups and downs because she's hesitant because of the whole the whole child bride situation, because if she were to go through with that, she couldn't date John anymore, because you have to, put up a front for the immigration folks. So that's what also was really hurting my heart with that situation, because she's a kid and she should be able to choose the person she wants to be with, not being with somebody to get $10,000. That's just not okay. But like I said, everything kind of works out for Dom in the end. I'm really excited to see where things go for her next season. But Dom is my girl. All in all, Dom is my girl. Okay. So next we have Sid. Sid is he's probably the most mature boy on the show, to be honest. But Sid, he is a student athlete coming from a South Asian Indian parents, okay? He gets good grades. He's the star of the, I think it's the swim team, and he's applying to get into Harvard. He has a girlfriend. Things are looking great for Sid at the beginning of the season. However, Sid has a secret. Sid has a secret, and the secret is he's gay. And of course, he's gay, and he has to keep it a secret because his parents, in their culture, that is not okay to be, homosexual. And so all these years, he kind of has to suppress his feelings. And like I said, he's dating a girl, but he doesn't end up like sleeping with her or anything, because he knows deep down inside that's not what he wants to do. And so we see him battling with his sexuality throughout the season, and he ends up breaking up with the girlfriend. And he starts, seeing guys and stuff like that. And everything is kind of blown up when one of the members of the swim team finds his college essay where he does reveal that he is gay, and he shows it to the entire school, which is like never okay. Never out nobody, okay? That is not your job. That's not what you're supposed to be doing, okay? That is that person's business, and if they want to share that with people, that they should be comfortable doing that themselves. You should not force somebody to reveal their sexuality before, especially if they haven't even come forth and said that to the general public. That was just trash. That boy needs to be stomped out, okay? But Sid, because of this happens, to get kind of like a hold on it before somebody else tells his parents, he tells his parents. His parents are not really here for it, out of fear of what others may think. And so that's kind of where we're at with it. We don't really learn much after that. But Sid, as the season ends, he gets into Harvard, which is, yay. He also starts dating, I think he's a part of the swim team as well. And he's bisexual. And so things are looking good in that way. And we love to see it. I like Sid, like I said. He's the best, one of the better, male characters of the show. So that's Sid. Next, we have Jason and Owen. And Jason and Owen, this storyline pisses me off, but it's real. It's real because that's why it really pisses me off. But Jason and Owen are basically a 2-for-1 because of what happened to them in the very first episode. During the lockdown, they play a game of keep away with Dominique's bag and, being typical teenage boys. And what ends up happening is her bag they end up dropping it like down the stairwell, because they're in a stairwell, so and they're probably at like the top floor, so it falls through. And then Dominique had money in the bag, and then when they went to go find the bag, there's no money. And so the same dusty teacher that was talking crazy to Joey ends up telling the principal about it. And this is how these two boys were really innocent in the situation. They go and they try everything to get Dom's money back. Jason sells his grandfather's rare records to get some money, and they both play the saxophone, so they go in the subway to get some tips to give to Dom, and they do give her all the money. But still, it wasn't enough for administration to not take disciplinary action. And what ends up happening is they have to go to a hearing. And Jason ends up only getting about a week, I think, of suspension, while Owen gets 60 days, which this I don't get. I think it's because Owen might have a previous record or something, or maybe it's because he had the bag to begin with. I don't know what exactly the reason is. I don't remember. But also the school has a zero tolerance policy against theft. And zero tolerance policies are trash, okay? Anyone that, knows anything about public education, a lot of schools have zero tolerance policies. And while they might have the right idea sometimes, like in terms of like bullying or assault and things like that, they're still kind of these things that set Black and brown students up for failure. And the school, in the show, they mention the school to prison pipeline, which is an important issue in public schools or in schools really in general. And basically, the school to prison pipeline is kind of the correlation between the fact that Black and brown students are punished more often and more harshly than their white classmates, just as in the general society, American society, Black and brown people are policed more harshly and more often than white people. I mean, 1 in 3 Black men go to prison. There are more Black men in prison right now than in the general population, and that is not a coincidence. And so that is why, and it starts in schools. Like I said, Black and brown kids get harsher, more often sentences, and they're usually victims to these zero tolerance policies. And it doesn't give the person who's, getting in trouble with these zero tolerance no room for redemption. So Owen has to go to this alternative school, which is, you see when Jason goes to visit him, that he gets beat up on like day 1. And you see him Owen go from this happy-go-lucky, bubbly kid playing the saxophone, just goofing off, to basically being bitter and upset and mad at the world. And it's not, and I don't blame him for it, because it's not fair what happened to him. That was so, like, 60 days is super excessive, And what probably is going to end up happening if, he doesn't get the justice he deserves, is that he's going to come back to school and he's going to have this defense up and he's going to get in trouble, probably more trouble than he got before. And he's going to end up either going to have to go back to the alternative school or getting kicked out altogether, which is what ends up happening with these things. You make these kids believe or think that they are criminals, and then they start acting as that. And that is what, and then they end up going to jail, essentially, because they get kicked out. Most of the time when kids drop out or get kicked out of school, more often than not, they end up in crimes and getting into troubles with the law, even though it don't really take much for Black people to get in trouble with the law. They don't gotta do nothing, okay? But then they end up going to jail, hence the name School to Prison Pipeline. But Jason obviously feels guilty about this, because obviously both of them were doing whatever they were doing. But obviously Owen got the harsher punishment. And also, like I said, they play the saxophone. They're both really good at it. And Owen ended up getting into this honor band and getting a solo, but he couldn't do it because he's in, at the alternative school. So they give his spot to Jason. And once again, Jason's feeling really guilty because he's like, this isn't really fair. And he tells Owen about it. Owen's pretty upset about it. Their friendship basically ends kind of, or it's in the balance right now. But Jason does use his freedom to raise awareness about the situation. He tells John and the Black Student Union about it, and they end up having a sit-in during school, which I think is super great, because I don't think we could ever do something like that in my high school. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But they do have a sit-in about it, and he's raising awareness. And then he does end up taking the solo, but what he ends up doing is, when the time for the solo to come, Jason gets up and tapes his mouth and has his fist in the air as a sign of protest. And I think that's super great, because, that's very bold. We don't know what consequence is going to happen for that. But he did it for his friend, and I think that's very admirable of him to do. But yeah, Jason and Owen's situation definitely is not unique. It's not rare. It's something that happens quite a bit in the public school system to Black and brown kids. So I definitely hope that, Owen does get some justice and he does get to get out of that alternative school, because if not, there can be really bad consequences for that. And it's not fair. Like I said, schools are a vehicle. Education is a vehicle for your life. And if it can go one or two ways, you know what I mean? Like, if things don't go well for you, it can lead you down a bad path, right? Some people are able to be resilient and push through those challenges, but some people aren't. And so for Owen, I definitely hope that something positive comes out of all of that. Lastly, we have Layla. And Layla is a menace to society. Okay, plainly put, she is a menace to society. And there's this thing on Twitter, they were like, oh, who is someone that feels like a war criminal but they're not? That's Layla. She's a war criminal. She is she was wilding the entire season. Like literally everywhere you look, Layla was wilding, okay? And yes, when we were all 14 and freshmen, we were kind of stupid. We kind of did dumb things, but Layla takes things to the next level, okay? So Layla, she is, I think she was born in China, and she's was adopted by these white Jewish American people. And she kind of is going through an identity crisis because, you know, while she's Chinese, she's visibly, you know, she's Chinese. She doesn't really know anything about the language or the culture and things like that. So she's kind of like torn between these two worlds, because in the, you know, the Chinese kids in the school don't really rock with her, don't really mess with her, because she doesn't know the language and she's not, you know, she doesn't know the traditions and things like that. But she also quite doesn't fit in the Jewish world either, because she doesn't stereotypically look Jewish. And so she's kind of like torn between those. So I sympathize with her in that, right? But like, this girl, like I said, menace to society. Like, she is fascinated or has a fixation on this George dude. I finally remember his name. I think his name is George. I don't know. George is one of the dudes that assaulted Joey, okay? And she messes with him a couple times, and she's all fixed on him. And to the point where her best friend even is like over it. And I don't blame her. I was like, this girl's annoying. She's insufferable, honestly. And then them little pictures she be drawing, demons. She got demons. I need her to go see a priest to get the demons out, because that's not, something ain't right up there with her, okay? And so she, you know, she signs up to do this whole play, and she ends up being an understudy. And you know, an understudy is a person who is gonna, if something were to happen to the main actor doing a certain part, they're supposed to take their spot. So they're supposed to be studying the lines and the cues, so that in the event, it could be the night of the stinking production, if something happens to that actor, you need to make sure that you're ready to assume the position. And she was not ready to do so, because she was too busy chasing Peen, okay? Too busy chasing Peen, okay? And then she gets upset because they end up kicking her out of the production. And you know what this girl does? Like a true menace to society, she writes up a threat to the school. She emails it anonymously to the administration and makes it seem like there's going to be another attack on the school. And so, of course, to take the proper precautions, the school shuts down and the play gets canceled. Who thinks of that? Like, who is that vindictive to do something like that, especially when it was your fault? Like, what? And then she had this imaginary beef with Joey. Like, why are you there feeding for George? George is not no good for nobody. And why she ends up, like, getting over him and starts dating one of the guys that are in charge of the play, she don't deserve him either. Because if he knew what she did, he would not be with her right now. And I have a feeling that next season, she's going to find some other bad boy to be obsessed with, and then leave him in the dust. Like, Layla, no. I couldn't stand her. Unlikable. Hopefully they might give her more to do to make her more likable. I don't know. I just was not here for her. She was doing way too much. Doing the most. Let's have a toast. I'm not here for her. No, I need her to get less camera time next season. I don't want it. Her and them drawings can go. Okay? But yeah, all in all, this was an amazing show. I loved it. I see people are comparing it to Euphoria, and I'm like, no. And while Euphoria is a good show, there's definitely a difference between this show and Euphoria. Euphoria is more dealing with drugs and mental health and things of that nature, while this show is more so dealing about the public school system and the things, the issues going on with that. And it's definitely a whole different feel to it. It's different than any other kind of teen drama show right now. It definitely ain't Riverdale or nothing. But I like it. I like it a lot. I'm really looking forward to what the next season brings. I don't know how long that's going to take. I did see them allude to Corona in that show towards the end. So I don't know if they're going to talk about virtual learning and things like that. If they have a season 2, I don't know. But yeah, I liked it. I really liked it a lot. Hopefully the writers do get the justice that they deserve. Hopefully they can come back for season 2 and they get better treatment, because I don't believe that they should get new writers, because I feel like when they do that, the show's not going to be as good. You need the same writers. Let's have the same writers. Thank you. And hopefully they get better treatment. But all in all, I really like the show. I think it's really dope. I see a lot of people really like it and that it's popular. So I definitely believe there'll be a season 2, even though Netflix usually don't care how popular something is. If they want to act something, they're going to act it. They're going to get it on out of here. So I don't know. But I liked it. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know your predictions for season 2. Who did you like? Who did you not like? all that good stuff. And I will definitely see y'all in the very next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.